Like for example, I find it very annoying. Like it's only happened to me like twice since I've detransitioned. But if someone asks me what my pronouns are, I'll be like, "Oh, my pronouns are like they and them,"
Yeah, yeah.
and
It
I'll just,
it's. I go. It it's.
and then they'll look at you like, "Oh, for real?" And I'm like, "No, of course not. I'm fucking with you. No." I'm like, what do you think? I don't think obviously mainstream people care about this topic. And I only detransitioned less than a year ago. This was in like February of 2022, so not even a year. And I think I did that video like a month, or I talked to that guy like a month after all I really did was just cut my hair. Really, I cut
Sure,
my
sure.
hair, and I don't know. It was just like the reason I did it was because I'm still like when I say, I don't care if someone an adult wants to change their gender. I really don't, but I just don't think that it should be so easy to where like a person where they do no psych. Because I was a crystal meth addict. I had all kinds of psychiatric issues. Not too bad, but I definitely did have things that were problems, and no one was like, "Well, stop doing drugs and drinking
Mm.
all the time." And I just don't think you should make such a life changing, serious thing if you're addicted to drugs. And also too, like I don't think that taxpayers should have to foot the bill.
Mm.
Like it's like like the same thing. Like if someone if you want to tattoo your face, I don't care.
Right.
I don't think it
Yeah,
should
or
be
like the body
illegal.
mods where people put like horns on their face or whatnot.
Sure. I mean,
But
I
is that
wouldn't.
a protected class because someone does that? It's
Well,
like
transgender here in Los Angeles, like they will the ours like my tax dollars go to like they pay for Brazilian butt lift, laser hair, everything,
really?
and I swear to God, yes, swear to God,
Yeah,
in
no,
Los
I
Angeles,
can.
but you have to be on state insurance, and I just think like I don't really I don't I think that's too much, but like if someone wants to change their sex and they want to pay for it, it's fine, but like, why do we have to pay for their boob jobs? And like, I'm telling you, I am. Texas, I would imagine, has different laws, but
No.
California is like ground zero
Oh
for
yeah.
anything woke and progressive, at least in the United States. I mean, Canada's even worse. Like, I was reading this thing about Canada. It's,
Oh yeah, a
Canada.
lot, I think
So,
most of them back the seizing of funds from trucker protests and stuff. It's a whole
hmm
wherever. I mean, wherever.
yeah, Canada's insane. Like, I mean,
Yeah, their
yeah.
racist prime minister who did blackface, the only
hmm
world leader. But there was my favorite is there's a photo of Trump and then Justin Trudeau, and it's like here's a
Yeah.
man who wore blackface standing next to Donald Trump. It's like exactly. Um,
Yeah, Trudeau's the worst. So, I mean, America has its problems, but like sometimes when I like am upset that I live in California or Los Angeles, I can just be
could
like,
be
well, at
worse.
least I don't fucking live in Canada.
Amen. Amen.
So,
Um, yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Well, because you're talking about people not suggesting. Well, maybe you should look at your drug habit prior to doing anything. So can we talk about first what the process was leading up to the decision to transition, right? So what kind of went into that? What was your background, and then what kind of like when did you start feeling that you wanted to do that?
Okay. Back in like 2000, like I never fit in school. I was bullied very badly. People, I don't know, didn't really like me that much. And I don't know, I just felt like I never really fit in anywhere.
What kind of bullying? Out
And
of curiosity.
Oh, they used to beat me up. They used to call me names. Like I won't say the word, but a lot of times the F one, the one with two G's. What else? All kinds of stuff. Like I mean, they would beat me up regularly. Like they would call me the meat gazer, saying that like I looked at guys when I don't even think I really did. Maybe like but I remember specifically like I got beaten up for like looking like just like kind of looking at this dude changing his clothes. They beat the shit out of me. I used to be pretty fast at running. Like I used to be pretty good at like cross country running the mile, that kind of stuff. And there was this kid who didn't like that, so he would like trip me. Like when we did the cross country one, there was this part where we cut around the tennis courts, and he would like hide behind a tree to like like just push me so I would
Sure.
fall. So stuff like that, mean names, and then I made friends with these kids who they only wanted to come over to my house because my mom was gone all the time, and like you could come over and we could drink alcohol and do
Mm-hmm.
drugs, and they were cruel to me, and like they would fuck up my house and eat all my food, and they would call me mean names too. So
Sure.
um yeah, so but anyway, but growing up I wasn't like a super effeminate kid. Like I never, like I have an older sister, and like I would get irritated like when she would want to watch like stupid like girl TV shows like The Simple Life and stuff like that. And like I never wanted to wear her clothes. I never said to like my mom or dad that, I'm really a girl, or I never did any of that stuff. I played soccer, I played tennis, like not the most masculine sports, but still. And not that that's necessary. Like some people be like, oh, there's a million different ways to be a man, but like, society certainly does. At least American society has certain
Sure.
expectations and norms for males.
So you
So,
were
and
just
I met
you were
a lot
just
of them, not all of them, but
you
yeah,
were
go
just
ahead.
out as a gay kid, right? Gay teenager.
I mean, not really. It was assumed when I was a kid that I was gay or whatever, but
By everyone but you.
I really, no, I knew I was a homosexual, but I didn't like go around. I wasn't like a stereotype. I played the guitar, and I wasn't like, I just, I don't think I was that stereo, and I still don't consider
Sure.
myself like a very, I don't really hang out with very many gay males right now, but I don't really hang out with or am interested in the ones that are like exhaustingly gay, like, like the ones that are like yes queen and all that kind of shit. So,
Yes. I
I don't want to like,
I know people
I remember when
like
I was a
that.
kid, I remember like going to West Hollywood, and I hung out with this guy named Robert, and he was just like prancing around, and just like I wasn't into that.
Right. I always
So,
make the analogy. It's like if a central part of your identity is your sexuality, it's like that's just not that interesting whether you're straight or
yeah.
gay. It's like if I know a straight guy who talks about all the girls he fucks, it's like that's
Yeah,
just
it's
as
annoying.
annoying as a gay guy that talks about
Yeah.
the guys he fucks. It's like
Yeah, and the same thing with
it's
the
just not
trans
that
thing too.
interesting.
It's like a lot of these trans people, especially these like trans activists, they make that their entire, and some of the detrans people are doing it too, where they just make it, this is like their entire
Yeah.
identity. Where it's like, for me, like, yes, I've had this thing happen to me, and I literally believe in God because of it, because um I think because I was doing so much drugs for most of it, it really prevented me from like growing breasts or any of that kind of stuff. So I don't really have to have any corrective surgeries or
Sure.
anything. I won't be able to have children. I highly doubt that naturally, which is, I mean, upsetting, but it is what it is. I can't really change it.
Sure.
So,
So you
but
never
anyway,
you never as a child you never felt like dysphoric.
no, I honestly never did. Like I enjoyed boy stuff. I never wanted to wear pink. I never, like, I've asked both of my parents, like, did I ever once like say that I wanted to be a girl or anything like that? And they said no.
So
And I
when
don't
did that
remember
when
anything
did
like
that
that.
how old were you when that feeling or when that idea, I guess, kind of came
When I
on?
was about, I'd say 20 years old,
20.
something
Okay.
like that. I had never even thought about actually changing my sex until, or gender, whatever you want to call it,
So what triggered that?
until,
What brought about that
well, I'll tell
idea?
you, I was really, when I was young, I was really into amphetamines, like crystal meth,
Sure.
Adderall in the beginning stages, but I eventually started doing crystal meth.
Yeah, well,
And
Adderall is basically
yeah,
meth.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
basically meth.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cleaner version, not as strong, but um, yeah, I was a drug addict, and I don't know if you know this, but people that do meth usually get into really weird sex stuff. Like most tweakers, like, have, like, there's something about crystal meth that it just like activates that part of your brain, and it's also like when you're on that, you need to find something that's really repetitive to do, and like whether it's
Hmm.
sex or masturbation, you can just go for hours.
Sure.
Like, and in the gay world too, like it's a big problem, crystal meth. And I started out watching like regular porn. I'd watch like two men have sex or whatever, and then that didn't do it for me. And I would get into not necessarily like really weird stuff, but I started to watch like there was a certain type of man I became attracted to, and I would find that more in the transgender porn, where it was like a man having sex with a transgender, whatever terminology you want to use.
Sure.
And I got into that, and there's a really bizarre, and okay, so like I said, like porn addiction, just like drug addiction, it escalates. Like you might
Hmm.
start, whether it's like you start doing a little Adderall to help you study, and then maybe on the weekend you'll do some cocaine,
Yeah,
but
and
then
then it's
after a while,
anytime you want to be productive, then you're doing Adderall.
right, right. But
Right.
then, but like, So if you were buying like a gram of cocaine, it's not going to do. You're going to need two, and you're going to need an 8 ball, and you're going to need a quarter, and then you're going to start smoking it because your nostrils are all fucked up. And then after a while, it's like, well, I can do just this amount of meth and spend $40, and I can stay awake for 2 or 3 days. So that's basically what
Jeez.
I became into, and so anyway, I discovered this bizarre subgenre called pornography. It's called sissy hypnosis porno. And I don't know, that's where, and it's like, and it has like the kind of guy I liked, and it would tell you like, it was like anal sex stuff. And was it, and it would tell you to like wear ladies' clothes and change your sex, and you're really a female. And I
It
don't know,
would
I just feel
tell.
like
What do you mean? It would tell you that? It would tell the viewer,
it's,
or
yeah, it
one
tells
of
the
the.
viewer like, and it would call you like mean names. It would call you like that F
So is
word
it
I
like
talked about.
POV type porn?
It's very bizarre. It's like there's different genres, or there's different types of it, subgenres, whatever. But yeah, it's very strange. Like I don't like it's. I don't think that made me trans. I think
Sure.
that just like being high on that and finding that while being so high on crystal meth made me want,
It
or
put that
it
I
opened something in
yeah
my
put
mind.
that
and
idea
and I and
there.
I before that too, I had been living with my father too, and he like tormented, not that, but he like fucked with me for years. Like my dad's very crazy. He's like old. He was in the Vietnam War.
Mm.
He's 100% service connected. He's got horrible post traumatic stress disorder, and I lived with him for like 2 years because my mom couldn't put up with me anymore. And she just didn't want to deal with my shit. So I went and lived with my father. And I don't know. I just like, I really hid the whole gay thing. I started hanging out with bad people. I was going to a junior college at the time near where he lives. And I took sociology. I took intro to
Oh,
sociology. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology. I have
okay.
a useless bachelor's
I've got
bachelor's
a
degree.
minor in gender studies, so we
Jesus
share
Christ.
useless educational
Yeah, that's even worse.
degrees.
I took, but anyway, so like I would have liked, let's see, this would have been like 2010 or 11. I would have been like, I was kind of woke, almost like what they would call woke now. Like I was
Well, woke in 2010 is conservative by today's standards, right? You probably
I
believed in
guess
free
like I
speech.
was, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I did, but like there's a sociological theory called like symbolic interactionism that I was subscribed to at the
Sure.
time, and it's sort of, I mean, it's I don't know, it's similar to what Jordan Peterson talks about, and it's just sort of like things are only the way they are because we say they are and we like
Mm.
agree on it. So like a man,
Sure.
that's society's definition of a man or a woman. That's not. So I was into that, and I don't know. I definitely would have like I voted for Obama once. I did do that. The first
Sure.
time I ever voted, I voted for Obama, which I'm not proud of, but it's something I did.
That's
It's
fair. We
something
all
I
make
did. I did.
mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, in California, but it doesn't really
I
matter
was
who you
gonna
vote for
say,
for president.
yeah.
But
So you were
so
saying, you think it was so around 20 is when the idea came about that you could transition. It was
well,
partly
I
because
just
of
saw
drugs,
this
partly
as
because of that porn.
I saw it as well, maybe this explains why I never fit in. Maybe this explains why like people think I'm weird, and people really, and looking back on it, I really don't think I'm that weird at all. But at the time,
That's what a
I
weird
thought I was
person
just
would say, but yes, as a fellow weird
I
person.
mean, I'm kind of weird, but like in terms of like, I don't think I'm dangerous, or
Sure.
I don't think I'm sick in the head. Like I've gone to see several psychiatrists, and like as sober, they basically tell me like maybe I suffered from depression at times, but I don't have any bipolar. I don't have any schizophrenia, any of that stuff. So
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure I'm a little bit obvious. I mean, I've lived a strange life, but I mean.
Sure.
I
But
mean,
it was you not fitting in, and this was your explanation for it.
yeah. hmm So I went on YouTube. I would go on YouTube and Reddit at the time. And I would go on like transgender subreddits, and I would go on YouTube and search like, "Am I transgender?" and stuff like that, or gay. Like, am I gay or transgender? And I came across this weird therapist who she was about an hour away from, maybe an hour and a half away from where I was living at the time. And I just wanted to like divulge this, like all this weird stuff I had been viewing. So this there, I'll send you her YouTube channel. I think it's still up, but I think like her original one got taken down, but she re-uploaded them. But anyway,
What
I
year
went
is
to go.
this around? This is all happening.
This would have been like 2011, something like that.
Okay.
2011 by this point, maybe early 2012, because I think I started the trans process in like late 2012, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, um, so I drove out to meet this therapist. She's a licensed clinical social worker, but she's really a trans activist who happens to have that credential because she was, I believe she was married to a transgender man, like a woman who transitions to a man,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like who's a famous one? I don't know, like Buck Angel
Buck Angel. Yeah.
or Buck Angel, Cher's son now, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I went to see her and I told her like, I have all these drug problems. Like I looked like shit too. Like my face was completely sucked in. I think I was dressed very like I tried to make myself like look nice, but I ended up looking like weird because I was trying. I think I wore not like a suit, but I wore like a dress shirt and I tucked it in, but it was like two sizes too big for me, and I was wearing like skateboard shoes, and like I just looked weird. And because I just didn't like. I was worried back then. I was worried, like maybe she would commit me to a psych ward or something, because doing. But no, she didn't do that at all. Like I told her, I watched this weird sissy porn. I like to use crystal meth. I like to use Xanax and stuff like that. And that was like, oh no. And then she like immediately was just like, well, this is because you're really a woman trapped in a man's body.
She
And
said that to you. You didn't bring
yeah,
that idea
yeah.
up.
And I don't think I did. I might have said, well, maybe I'm transgender. I don't know. But
But
she
she
said, yeah,
said
you're.
she made that affirmative
Oh yeah,
statement.
she absolutely was like, yes, you're a woman. Like if we
Hmm.
did brain scans, you and I would have the same, brain waves and all this stuff. And then she was like, she gave me a list of doctors in my area, which there was quite a few back then. There was like five or six. I would imagine there was like, I don't know,
Yeah,
quite a bit more
triple
now.
that. Yeah.
But back, and then she emailed me a letter to get to like print out and give to the doctor's office. Because back then you needed a doctor to do, or excuse me, you needed a letter from a mental health professional. Now in California, you do not. Like, for example, if you were to come here, you could go to the LGBT center. They have a health center there. And you could walk in and just say, I want to become a woman. And they'd be like, okay, here's a prescription for estrogen and testosterone blockers. And then they would give you like, they would
Like
give
a
you,
minute click, like a minute clinic at
yeah,
Walgreens,
it's my
basically.
it's my understanding. Yeah, basically, it's my understanding that you could they do like these group Zoom meetings where you can get, because I think you still need letters if you want to get the surgeries, and if you make less than, I forget what it is, but it's like less than $20,000 a year, you can get the state to cover it. They'll pay for the hormones, they'll pay for the hair removal, they'll pay for they'll pay for boob jobs. I swear to God, they'll pay for Brazilian butt lift. I know people who've got this. It's true. Like, look, like if you want to do a deep dive, look into it. But anything they say is medically necessary for you to live as your gender, the state, it's true. So anyway, I digressed a little bit, but yeah, so I went to go see this therapist lady, LCSW. And yeah, the very first time I saw her, when, I literally looked like a crackhead. I looked like shit. Like my eyes were like, I probably hadn't slept in like 2 or 3 days or longer maybe. And I was gaunt and skinny and just weird looking, just not in the right, like, I mean, it wouldn't have been the worst idea if someone did put me into a psych ward, not because of the transgender thing, just because I was, so, I mean, I used to literally think the FBI was following me around. I thought that my parents had these conspiracies against me. I used to drive around in circles before I would go to my house to make sure no one was following me,
Sure.
so, I mean, that's not like behavior of like a normal person. And I had other weird, I would sit in my rooms. It's embarrassing, but I used to sit in my room sometimes, and I wouldn't even realize that this was happening. But I would sit in my room and like watch porn and like masturbate sometimes for like hours and hours. Like, I mean, like 6 hours at a time.
While on meth.
While high on crystal meth. And then to come down from meth, I would use Xanax, or I'd use this other drug called GHB, which makes you incredibly horny in a different way. Like, and yeah, I mean, I had something bad happen to me when I was young. Like, so I don't know. Like, sometimes I wonder, like, what kind of effect that's had on me, like, I don't know, as a sexual being or whatever. But Um, yeah, I mean, I just think it's weird that like this, and also, um, this therapist acted in very strange ways, and I saw her a couple more times, like maybe, and then she had me come to these like group therapy sessions where it was like all these and they were like saying, oh, you should really start the hormones, and like she was an LCSW, but she used to inject people with the hormones, and she injected me with the first dose of hormones, which is totally illegal now that I know
Because she's
that.
a licensed social worker. She's not a.
Yeah, she's not a medical, like a nurse could do that, like, even, but she wasn't a nurse, and it wasn't like in a it was like in some like the shittiest office space I've ever been into. And I it's my understanding she's left California, and there if I googled her, and there's a transgender man again who was a patient of hers who alleges that her therapy license hasn't been active for a long, or her, excuse me, her clinical, like, she's not active with her board. It's so I don't know, so I really do think that this person needs to be stopped. I mean, I'm
Jesus.
sure
Yeah.
she
I
has
mean,
no money. Like, I mean, I fell for it. I did fuck up. Like, I'll take, like, I'm not one of these people, like there is a little bit of blame on my behalf too. And I mean, at
sure.
the time, I think I did, for a while, I did think that this was something I wanted to do, based, just because I think at the time, like, I guess it was getting me off or whatever. Like, I just liked the idea of like how women get railed by a man, basically, and I just almost envied that. But and
So
I mean, I guess like, I don't know, I like I don't know, I think women are like pretty, like, I don't really have any sexual interest in them, but like, women are like, I think they're beautiful and they're interesting sometimes, and I admire women's fashion too. I've always like, been interested in that. So,
sure.
but I mean, a lot of gay men are, so that's not like,
Sure.
there's not reason to like change the chemistry in your body
Yeah.
and do all this
Right.
weird shit.
Right.
So,
So what were the first processes, or what was the process of transitioning like? So you went to the therapist, you were, drugged out, right? You had a lot of
mm-hmm.
problems. You said maybe going to a psych ward would be the best thing for you, even potentially.
Probably,
And she
a
and
drug. I think a drug rehab,
sure, sure, sure,
a drug rehab, I think would have
fair.
been the
But then
appropriate.
this
Yeah,
therapist basically said whether you might have brought up the idea. She said, "Oh, she affirmed that you were
absolutely. Oh,
definitely a woman."
immediately.
Right.
Yeah,
And then she wrote
there
you the
was
prescription
no,
for the doctor.
yeah, like a recommendation letter or something. Yeah,
And so
I
then
still have it, actually. I still have, in
wow.
my old email. I still have it.
So then what
So,
happened after that? So you said the first injection she
well,
gave to you?
I went to go see this doctor, and it's in like the shittiest strip mall in Hollywood, like the east, like by the 101 freeway in Santa Monica Boulevard, like a really shitty area. And it was like I couldn't even believe it was a doctor's office. It was like literally it had like paper thin. They weren't even like really offices. They were almost like cubicles. And he talked to me for like 2 minutes, and he was like, "Okay, well, here, here's a prescription for this, and then come see me in like 6 months." And that was all it was.
For
And it was,
estrogen?
yeah, estradiol and spironolactone. It's a medicine that prevents your body from making testosterone.
Sure. So what was
It's
taking
like
the
a
medication
diuretic.
like? Yeah, what was
I mean, from it reduced. Like, I didn't really have much of a sex drive after a while. I was having acne from testosterone, and it made all the acne go away. So
So
that
you're
was a
probably pretty
plus for me.
happy initially.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, because I still struggle with acne now that my testosterone slowly starting to come back. I'm still struggling with acne. So I mean, sure, which is not great, but there's other interventions that can be
Yeah.
done, besides taking
Panoxyl,
fem.
I highly recommend if you've ever tried it.
I'll look into it. No, I
Yeah.
haven't, but
Benzoyl peroxide.
oh, yeah, yeah, sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've used that. But anyway, so I don't know, and also right around this time, like right before I did all this, my mom started liking me again, and because I got into a 4-year college that she had gone to when she was my age, and she was very happy about that. So my mom, she let me live in one of the condos she owns, and because I was going to college, like I was being a good boy, and I told her, like, all this stuff, and she let one of my old friends move in who had been my roommate, and then anyway, and then I came out of the closet to my mother. I said, I didn't even, like, I was so like ashamed of it, I couldn't, like, tell her face to face. Like
Came out of the
I gave
closet as gay or as
no,
transgender?
as a transgender. Like I sent her this bizarre, not bizarre, but I sent her this letter like this is who I am, and like the therapist like coached me on how to write it. And I said, so I did, like I put the classic line now, which is, do you want a dead son or an alive
Yeah.
daughter? That kind of, emotional manipulation, blackmail, whatever you want to call it. And I put like, this is how I've always felt, but in hindsight, I don't think that was true. So, yeah. And then also too, I was so ashamed of it. Like I couldn't speak to my mom for like a week. Like I wouldn't answer her calls. Like, she came over to the place and she like, I didn't want to speak to her. And my mom was okay with it because my mom was worried that I really would kill myself because the only time I ever really felt suicidal, because I would never want to kill myself now, but I sometimes would feel like actually ending it because the come down from meth is so painful that like sometimes I would be like, I should just fucking
Mm-hmm.
just blow my brains out. And my mom knew I had a couple guns. My dad's like a gun nut, and she was, that disturbed her. And so she was definitely concerned, and she knew I was doing drugs. Like she knew that I smoked weed sometimes, and she had caught me doing cocaine before, but she didn't know like the extent of the drug abuse. So yeah, so I at this time I had transferred into the college, and I was doing pretty good. Like I was doing pretty good in my classes. When I started taking the hormones and stuff, though, I didn't like just overnight like start dressing in ladies' clothes. That took like, I don't know, I'd say like a year and a half or so at least.
Okay.
Like
So the timeline, so sorry. So 2011 is when all this was, is when you got your prescription, 2011, 2012?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And okay, so then you were on the medication for a year or so when you going into college now?
Well, I came out to my mom before that because I needed her money. I needed money to go to like a good endocrinologist. I needed money for clothing.
Sure.
I needed money for to have like my body hair. I'm not really a hairy guy or whatever, but I had some facial hair which I had all removed. I had laser done, and I mean I have no facial. I don't know. It might come back. I doubt it, but it's
Sure.
whatever. I can live without it. But so yeah, I did all that, and I was going to college. I was doing pretty well on paper, so my mom was somewhat happy. She was confused. My sister was very confused because my sister grew up with me, and she knew that this is my little brother. This is not So when I detrans, my sister. I mean, we're not like close, but she's much better now. She and I are on much better terms. But yeah, so I was going to college. I was studying sociology. Um, I minored in music, so I was doing all that. I
When
was
you
playing the
were
piano.
when you were studying sociology, did gender issues come up and did it sort of reinforce what you were?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, I did have to take sociology. It was what the hell was it called? But yeah, basically gender studies. They called it something slightly different. But I mean, I had to take race and ethnicity, which was like, I mean, the professor of that class was like an admitted Marxist, and
Oh
like,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah. So
my in my gender studies class, the very first day, the international feminist studies professor quoted Karl Marx. Remember, what
yeah,
did Marx say? To each according to their ability, to each according to their need. It's like, oh, we're
right.
just saying it straight up. Okay.
Right. So also in sociology, there's three main theories. There's three main theoretical perspectives. There's the functionalist perspective, which I would say I to some extent now more aligned with, and
Is
then
that
there
Durkheim?
is
Emil Durkheim?
yeah, Emil Durkheim. He the one that did the thing about suicide, or was that Max Weber? Yeah, Emil Durkheim. I think he was I
Maybe.
forget. It's been, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Emil Durkheim. He was then, but like functionalism, like sees society as like an organism, like where like the heart, you need the heart, and you need the the nervous system, and so on and so forth. But the other one, which is the most popular, especially in modern, not only sociology but all of the social sciences, is the conflict theory, social conflict theory, which is literally based in Karl Marx. Like when I
Yep.
was taking the theory class, like we were recommended if we were going to do our term paper on conflict theory, which thankfully I did, and I did on the symbolic interactionism, which I don't hate that one, but anyway, you were to read the Communist Manifesto. So, but yeah, symbolic interactionism is this guy C. Wright Mills. Durkheim was it was either Durkheim or Max Weber who they did this whole study on suicide, and I think that fuck, it's gonna bug me. I'm gonna have to refresh on this stuff, but
Sure.
wrote this whole thing about suicide being like, when you're in a state of normlessness, they called it anomie. That's another term that they love to use. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, in the gender studies classes, I took sociology of deviance, and the professor of that class, I specifically remember, she was my professor when I was Brian, before I had transitioned, and after I had transitioned, she came up to me like in the hallway, because I went to a small school, and like the department, like all the classes were like, in the same building, and all the professors' offices were, but anyway, so she walked by me one day and she's like, "Oh, hello, Brianna, how are you?" So that leads me to believe, and at the time I found it very phony because I hadn't seen this person in at least a year, and I was Brian. But it led me to believe that like the professors, like when they had one of their staff meetings, they like brought me up. They were like, "Oh, we have a trans student now.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
remember Brian?" So that was
And this was a professor of social who taught social deviancy, or the class
she
around it.
she taught several court classes, but I had her for sociology of deviance.
Sociology of deviance. Got it.
And she was like, ooh, I mean, all of my professors were uber woke, with the exception,
Sure.
the only professor I had in college that I don't think was insane was my statistics teacher,
Yeah.
professor.
Well, that
He,
would make sense. Yeah.
well, he was a social scientist too, but I feel like, I mean, I would love to talk to this guy, but, I got not like, I got more of like he might be a closeted Jordan Peterson kind of vibe,
Yes.
possibly.
I think many people are closet Jordan Peterson fans. The ones who
But
say they
in
haven't.
hindsight, I would say he was like the only professor, I think, from the sociology department. Well, him, and there was my very first sociology professor when I was at a junior college. She's but she's very woke and stuff. But I still know her to this day. She's my friend on Facebook, and she supports me. We won't see eye to eye on a lot of things.
Sure.
She knows I voted for Trump, but she's known me for a long time,
Sure.
and she's a genuinely, but she's a junior college, community college professor. So I think her and my statistics professor are the only two from the sociology that I,
Yeah. I've
would
got
have
a.
any interest. Like the rest of them, they would hate. They would think
Yeah,
I'm like
sure.
a
Yeah,
neo-Nazi or
you
something.
reinforce a right wing narrative or something like that just by
I mean,
living the
not just
experience.
that, but I mean, look, I mean, even when I was transgender, when I was transgender, and I was so upset about the coronavirus shit that I became, I don't know, red pilled. I voted for Donald Trump. I used to go to I'll send you the pictures. I have pictures of me as a transgender with a MAGA hat on. I used to like walk around Beverly. Yeah, I used to hang out with these people. I got in fights with the Antifa people at the thing. So, yeah, I mean, so they say that, they say a conservative is just a liberal who's been mugged. And that's
Yeah.
true. I mean, I was mugged by these gender wackos. I got 2 steps away from cutting my penis off. Let's see, I get mugged every April on tax day. And when I was in college, they railroaded me too, because even as a trans, I wasn't woke enough, because I joined the Gay Straight Alliance and they fucking hated me. They kicked me out of their club. They reported me to the dean.
Because
They reported me to the dean because, well, first they tried to set me up on a date with a transgender man, and I was like, no, I'm not interested. Like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not even gonna ascertain. Like,
and they took
no.
offense to that.
Yeah, they said it's transphobic, and I was trans at the time. I was a trans woman,
Yeah.
And they try. And I don't want to be with a
Sounds about
trans man. Ugh, absolutely not. I'd rather fuck a trans. I'd fuck a trans woman before absolutely not. But no, what they reported me to the dean was because they were going to downtown LA to This was 2014. This is when I was a senior in college. They were going to protest for Michael Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember
Ferguson?
the Michael Brown. Yeah, Ferguson. So this was right around that time of the Black Lives Matter stuff. And I'm trying to remember. I graduated in 2015, so this would have been like late 2014, early 2015.
Sure.
And they were going to downtown LA to like, and they still do it to this day. And LA has horrible traffic. And when they did it recently about abortion, which I found stupid because California is never going to get rid of abortion. But anyway,
Yeah, right.
what the protesters love to do is they like to walk onto either like the 101 freeway in downtown LA or like the 110 or the 10, one of the big freeways. And you know they'll walk on there, and I said, if you guys are gonna do that, I think you guys deserve to get run over by a car. And they said that I was violent, and I fucking I violated their safe space. And
Yeah.
yeah, they reported me to the dean, and the dean was like kind of laughed at it, and he was like, just don't go back to that club anymore. Just fucking don't go.
Simple solution.
Yeah, but these people are so phony though that when I graduated with honors, they wanted me to wear their sash. They sent me like an email
After
to
having
yeah,
kicked you
yeah.
out.
Because all right, the Gay Straight Alliance was originally fun. Like this guy ran it, and it was all about like, it was kind of stupid. Like we would get the school to buy us food, and they would even buy us beer and stuff. And then at the end of the semester, we would all chip in and get a party bus, and we would go to like one of the gay nightclubs, like in West Hollywood, or we'd go to Long Beach sometimes, and we would get fucked up, and we would dance and the whole thing. But then when I was like a senior or junior, this militant lesbian took it over. Who she was like this black girl who she had like a shaved head and she always wore overalls with like all these weird pins on them.
Sure.
But she had a fucking 7 Series BMW though, and that leads me to believe like her dad is some like lawyer,
Rich person.
or yeah, exactly. So but anyway, I would bet money too that this chick is a they them now, 100%.
Well, everyone's a they them now. It's
yeah,
30% of people
me.
in California. Yeah, right. Yes, everyone who's
I don't know.
who's saying
I live over here, and I don't really come in contact. I don't, unless I go to like a Starbucks or something, or like there's this like where the real woke people live. They live in like Echo Park and Silver Lake. I don't go over there. So, but anyway, no, I did actually overhear someone like recently talking about a taco stand. Like I was like overhearing it. And like these 2 young girls, they were like, "Oh, there's this great taco stand down the street from my house that these 2 Latinx guys run." I was just like,
"Oh yeah."
But
I saw that on a restaurant thing. It was like it's like we serve Latinx. It's like,
dude. Well, she called them Latinx guys. Doesn't make any sense.
No,
but anyway,
being
but
logically consistent is not a necessity.
Right. So that's what I don't like about the trans movement. It's become very authoritarian, and it's like just anti like reason. It's like 1984 George Orwell, where you can't believe your eyes and ears anymore,
Right. So
I just don't want to be a part of that, quite frankly. So
right. So
yeah.
how long did you live as a trans woman? Right.
I'd say for about 8 years.
8 years. And this
I took the hormones for longer, but like from when I had my name legally changed and wore ladies' clothes, and if I went to a coffee place. But about 8 years.
So
eight, maybe 9 years, something like that. A while, yeah.
Were you confidently like you didn't? Did you ever? Was it always a questioning in the back of your mind whether or not you had made the right decision? Or was there a time where you were like, no, I'm certain I'm a trans woman?
I think in the very beginning, but like once I did it and I started living, I was like, why am I doing this? Like everything was very contrived. Like if I did go to I hated going to coffee places or takeout restaurants where they would be like, well, what's your name for the order? And I'd just be like, Brianna, like, but
you felt fake even to yourself.
Yeah, it felt fake. And I felt like really, when I really didn't like going to the gym because I knew that it was not appropriate for me to go into the ladies' locker room. And I'll feel bad about that till the day I die. So, once I graduated college, I had my mom would send me to rehabs, and like the first rehabs I would go to, I just met new people to do drugs with, and I eventually got into opiates. Like I started doing goofballs, which is where you mix crystal meth and heroin, and I would do that. I would take Xanax. But anyway, so in 2018, in a few weeks, I'll have 4 years of I haven't done any drugs. I haven't had a sip of beer, wine, any of that. Thank you. I go to Alcoholics Anonymous. I have a sponsor, the whole thing. But anyway, once I sobered up from drugs and alcohol, that was when I realized, I was like, dude, why, like, what? But it took me like another 3.5 years or so to be where because I was just kind of embarrassed. Like I had done all this stuff and I just didn't want to have to go around and be like, I fucked up. Because the thought of having the vaginoplasty, like, is just, I find it disturbing. Like, I known a
Yeah,
few people that did it.
unsurprisingly, yeah,
Right, and
one would find that disturbing.
I don't even like, I would like, I don't even want to look at a vagina. Like, if Kylie Jenner and Haley Bieber were naked right there, I would, just give them a towel and be like, go in the bathroom.
That's fair.
So
Spoken
I
like a
don't
true
want
gay
to.
man. Yes.
Right. So like,
Well,
the thought of having one, and also too, like, the couple people I knew that did do it, they have horrible like, it's not like,
oh,
I
all
don't
the
think they're
complications and
right.
stuff.
They've
Oh
had
yeah,
to
I
have
hear about that.
multiple revision surgeries, and it's not like they have like this, so even if it did work, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
So I never wanted to have a boob job or any of that stuff.
Yeah, but so for 8 years essentially. So you lived as a trans woman for 8 years,
Yeah,
and the whole time there was a part of you that felt this was not.
absolutely. I
See,
mean,
that's so. It's funny. It reminds me of people who are in a bad relationship and then like will keep taking the next steps all the way to like getting married, and it's like, and I've seen it of like, that somewhere in the back of your mind, this is the wrong decision, and like I remember I met someone who was dating they were engaged to his fiance, and like the first time I met them together, they were like taking pot shots at each other, and I told my friend, I'm like, these two are gonna get divorced for sure.
sure, yeah.
And I saw that like a year in advance, and then they moved in together, and like a couple months later, they called off the wedding. It was like, how it's some things. It's like,
Well, good thing they called off the
well,
wedding.
right, exactly, yeah, exactly. But it's like people can be in so much denial and for so long, and that's just
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, literally. When Trump got elected, I was like kind of like glad. Like, I was on. I mean, I started listening to. I mean, say what you will about Joe Rogan. I'm not his biggest fan, but some of the guests he had on around the Trump election, like, really is where I started to think, all that sociology stuff is bullshit. Like,
Sure.
I heard Jordan Peterson. And not that I necessarily agree with these two on everything, but I specifically remember him having Milo Yiannopoulos, which I don't like him anymore, and he had Gavin McInnes on.
Miles always. Yeah,
I think Gavin is okay though. I mean, I don't, the Proud
sure.
Boys thing is stupid, but like, if you listen to him talk, like, I don't know, but like, so yeah, I would listen to, a lot of this stuff, and I don't like, I mean, I know a lot of women, but I don't want to hear them talk about their tampons and pure. I just don't. And their girl problems. Like,
Right.
I mean, I really, when I was trans, I don't think it made any sense. Like, people I knew, they were like, oh yeah, it was just weird. And some of these
Were
people are kind of woke. So
were people? Was everyone around you like supportive, at least in the?
yeah, my parents never disowned me or anything. My parents continued to help me
It's a
and
good
help me.
low
And
bar, but yeah.
once I got sober too, like, my life, I got a really good job, like a normal job. And I just like, I wasn't a good, instead of like, really doing the AA thing, I just became like addicted to, like, I was addicted to shopping for a while. And I really cared, like I really cared about wearing like designer labels. Like, I still kind of do, but not as much anymore. Like, I just, like, I don't really care as much. And like, I really care about like, oh, like what kind of car I drive, or like, what my zip code is. And I don't really care as much about that kind of stuff anymore. So I
Sure.
became more obsessed with that kind of thing. So, but now that I've come out of the trans thing, I don't, not that stuff doesn't mean anything to me anymore, because it does, but
You don't obsess about it as much.
I don't obsess about it. And
You were saying you're no longer obsessed with like the status type stuff and
not really, no. And I was just trying to, like, I think what it was because I knew I wasn't like a female. So I had to like compensate by like having a nicer bag than these chicks, or like having a better blazer, or
sure,
like a better pair of shoes.
sure, the markers
And
of being a
yeah,
woman.
yeah, I really think that that's what it was, because like, as a man, there are things that I care about, but clothes, not 100%. Car, yes, a little bit. I don't know.
Sure.
Zip
So
code doesn't matter to me anymore either. Zip code doesn't mean
that's
shit.
fair. That's fair.
So
So what was the process? I mean, what was the moment? So you always had a doubt that what you were doing
yeah,
was kind of
yeah,
fake almost.
yes,
So what
yes,
was the
and I
moment where it became, oh, I made a mistake. I'm no longer gonna lie to myself.
honestly, I had been thinking the COVID thing. I was bored one day, and I looked through an elementary school yearbook of me, And it made me cry because I saw a little boy. I saw the little boy that I was, and I liked being a boy, and I still do like I'm a man now, but I have a man energy. I have a male swagger of sorts. And even when I was a trans, I definitely did still have that. Not that much about, other than like my haircut, and I'm not putting on fucking makeup. I'm wearing slightly different clothes, but I wasn't wearing the most feminine shit necessarily. I was wearing nice shoes and I had a nice bag, but other than that, I was still just the same, and I wasn't happy. I had no interest in dating at all. I had no interest in sex or whatever. Not really. So anyway, what really
Did you ever
became
have did you ever have any relationships while you were
no, not really.
trans boy?
I had a sugar daddy relationship when I was all fucked up on drugs, but that was only because he was giving me money to buy drugs. Like I wouldn't even fucking like, if he walked by me today, I wouldn't even,
Sure.
I wouldn't even, so, but no, no.
So it was seeing the image of you as a young boy that was like the
Yeah,
moment, you think?
that was where like but I still didn't correct it for like, it took like another year and a half or so, where honestly, earlier this year, there was just things going on with the trans community. And I had this experience where I came into contact with someone who had like this, a female to male transgender person who had that phalloplasty surgery. And apparently the penis that they made out of this person's arm fell off. It fell off. And I found that super disturbing. And I was just like, dude, I just wanted to like just be gay or whatever. Like, and then also too, honestly, the Leah Thomas thing and some of like I came not in contact, but I came across some of the trans activism with involving like children. They love to use this term trans youth. It makes me want to vomit, but I found that gross.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it was Leah Thomas, the swimmer, that I just was like, I don't want to be a part of this.
This is why you were a trans woman.
Yeah, but I mean, I like, look, when I was trans, like, I wasn't like, I didn't go to like pride events. I didn't make it like my personality.
Mm-hmm.
Just like now, the detrans thing, like, I'm honestly just trying to move on with my life. Like, the reason I shared the story was just because, for one thing, I really do want the policy to change, but here in California, I'm not going to hold my breath. And maybe someone will see, like, maybe before I take hormones, I should not, I should quit drinking or quit doing drugs and reassess it. So that's why I believe in God, because I think that something protected me from, really, getting married to this trans shit. Because like, had I had a vaginoplasty surgery, I might have killed myself. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I feel terrible for there are people out there who have detrans, unfortunately, and that's their situation.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad for them.
Well, and that, like the whole, there's so many lines that I didn't think we would cross, like trans athletes. Like the idea that a male would be competing at the highest levels of female sports,
yeah,
and
it's
people would
ridiculous.
accept that. It's like those type of things where I'm like, okay, now I understand that we are products of history. Where when societies went off the rails, you think, oh, that would never happen. It's like the level of lie that people are willing to buy in and ignore and just go along with, like that's the kind of stuff. And so my wonder is, the last hope, so to speak, is, it's sick to put it that way, but like, will the stories of will the endless number of botched surgeries start to stack up to the point where people cannot, where trans youth is the last line that they can push, right? Because
Look,
if endless number of children are doing the vaginoplasty complications, it's like there has to be a wake up point, right?
the only thing that will stop it, and that is lawsuits. That is
Right.
This is America. The only thing that will stop this is lawsuits.
Right. Not
Like,
legislation, but lawsuits.
legislation will come after lawsuits.
Right. I don't think you want to make it
Possibly.
illegal, because then it's like a civil rights thing. Oh, they're
No, I
stopping the
don't.
youth.
I don't want to make it illegal. Like, if some little boy wants to wear a dress, and call himself, whatever the effeminate of his name is, or if a boy. However, I don't like the whole like thing where like sometimes it does seem, and sometimes with like some of these moms, it's almost like it's better than having an Hermes bag if you have a trans kid.
Oh, yeah.
Like Charlize Theron has one. Angelina Jolie had a trans kid for a while. I think Gwen's right. Yeah, I think Gwen Stefani has a trans kid. So yeah, I think the only thing that will stop the medical stuff, especially with young youth, trans children, is lawsuits. And I do think that one day, I still think that it's going to take another 5 years. It's going to take another, but so,
Well,
that's the only, because this is America and money talks and bullshit walks. So and also too, right now there's I mean, there's it's a whole industry. There's a gender industry where,
yeah.
there's plastic surgeons and therapists and many other people who this is their shtick. This is their
What's the Yeet the Teat doctor or whatever it is?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's her
Oh, she's the
identity.
worst. She's oh my god, she is the most awful one. Doctor. She has some weird fucking name, but her last name is Gallagher, but her first name is like it's some like weird Celtic name. She's from Ireland, yeah.
Sure.
So she's I mean you want to talk about fucking oh man, ghoulish. God, fuck her
Yeah.
and there's a guy they call the Butcher of Beverly Hills, but that's a whole nother thing.
Sure.
But anyway, yeah, so once these people start to get sued, but the thing about her though, I just thought of this. She's in Florida because Florida it's really hard to sue a doctor in Florida, so that's
Sure.
why. But anyway, so I mean, I'm looking into see what because I had an endocrinologist that fucked me. Did what no other endocrinologist would. I don't want to go into it too much, but we'll
Sure.
see what happens. And my only thing is, I think that yes, if you had a bad experience, you should at least look into legal. And I'm normally not a very litigious guy, but I really do think to stop the only thing that's going to stop this is lawsuits.
I agree. Yeah,
I
because you
really do.
have to. I mean, if you view it as a pharmaceutical industry backed problem, which I think it is,
Yeah, the
like the
pharmacy. Yeah,
like the
yeah,
opioid crisis, right? Like
yeah,
what the opioid
exactly.
crisis was
Yeah,
the
Purdue
pharmacy companies,
Pharmaceutical. Yeah,
right? So there's a profit. Like the ideology is bad enough, right? But I don't think it would get this far unless there was not profit pushing behind it, unless there was money to be made
absolutely.
off of telling people, well, you can be whatever gender you want. Oh, well, when you have entire
Yeah,
institutions dedicated to it. So yeah,
yeah,
I totally. I think I hope legislation is the thing that stops it. But it's like the
yes.
opioid crisis. It's like we know that's been pushed. And I don't know if it's gotten worse or better really in the last 5 years or so. But I think you're right. It's going to take time. Well, and
Oh, the opiate crisis got more deadly because of fentanyl, the
right,
synthetic
right, yeah,
fentanyl.
good point, good point.
But yeah, but I mean,
Restrictions.
they were better off doing oxycodone because if you get an oxycodone from the pharmacy, it's whatever, it's 30 milligrams, 60 milligrams, 80 milligrams,
Right.
So
Yeah,
fentanyl, but anyway, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the gender thing though, I think that I think one day we'll be watching, a YouTube video and an ad will come on saying, were you harmed by
Were you
gender
a loved
medicine?
one?
But I think it's going to be a while though. I don't think it's going to be overnight because I don't know. All the institutions are really buying into it right now,
Yeah.
and I mean, not all of them, but like if you talk to people low key, they don't like normal people don't know about it. And they might not believe you if you tell them
No.
I'm 100% serious that in California Medicaid will pay for all of that stuff. But I tell my mom about it, and my mom, she's a Democrat. Like she voted for Joe Biden. I tell her about it. She's like, "Oh no, they're not doing this and
Yeah.
that." And I'll send her, and it's like she wants to bury her. Like I told her about Rachel Levine, and all this, like how Rachel Levine has this bizarre, agenda of really this
Trans
children stuff.
youth. Right.
I hate that term, but yeah, yeah. And what's the other thing I told her about? Oh, how Joe Biden met with that
Oh,
Barbie pouch.
Or is it Dylan Mulvaney or something?
Yeah, yes, yes.
It's funny. Speaking of like normal people, like this woman, uh, uh, at like a store, um, I heard she said something like, Ultra, they're going through a controversy right now or whatever because they brought two men to do their advertising, something like that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Ulta
Okay,
Beauty. Yeah,
regular
yeah.
person just bringing it up.
Regular people. Like, okay, so if I go and talk to people, and like if I go to talk to, besides like the uber woke people that live in LA, but like the normal Democrats, and just like when you tell them like these city council people want to abolish the police, they don't. So there's a cognitive
Right.
dissonance.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
yeah,
the other thing too, just going back to the, you lived 8 years as a trans person, and it
yeah,
took that long to realize, oh, this was
yeah,
a mistake, right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
and it's so funny because I look into like the studies and whatnot. And I try and look firsthand at all the data, the medical
Right.
science behind this. It's like like they'll do surgery, they'll do double mastectomies on children, follow up those children 2 years later, and say it
Yeah.
was a success. We cut off their breasts when they were 13. We
Yeah.
follow up them when they're 15, and they said they're happy still. It's like, well, okay, you took 8 years. Someone else might take 4 years. Someone else might take 12 years. Someone else might
Yeah.
take 6 years. It's like the and since all the surgeries have spiked now and all the treatments have spiked, there's going to be what, a 5 to 10
Oh
year
yeah, yeah,
lag,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. In about five
So
years, you're gonna see a lot of people detransitioning. It's gonna
right, and
be,
it's
and
just
they're gonna have to deal with this. They're gonna have
yeah,
to, and some people, like, luckily, that's why I talked about me and the God thing. But some people are gonna have a much harder. So that's why I'm very thankful that I don't know if it was God or just me having enough. I don't know,
yeah,
but anyway, so some people are gonna, and like, it's really sad because like if a young lady, a young girl, a girl takes testosterone, it's gonna like, she'll have a deep voice, you know, she'll have
yeah,
a voice
forever.
probably deeper than mine, and it's very difficult to train back. And like, you know, having your, or God forbid she has a hysterectomy or that phalloplasty thing, that is the most horrific of all the
That's
surgeries.
like
Like even like a true, like, because I do believe that there are true transgender people. I think it's extremely rare, but I think it is. I think it in you know, so in LA County there's like 10 million people, so maybe there's like 20 transgender people in LA County. I don't know. It could be more.
sure.
I don't know, but who knows? You know. So
Yeah, well, part of the reason I think it's important to even talk about this is like, there needs to be what we say. The biggest barrier to acceptance of transgender adults in society is the fact that they're getting lumped in with trans youth. It's like, well, like trans is this umbrella issue. So if I
yeah,
support trans rights, I have to also support genital mutilation of children. It's like, no, no, no. I want trans adults to be able to do whatever they decide between their doctor, have their
yeah,
rights, and be able to live their life and deal with their problems just like anyone
right.
else. But
Like Buck Angel is a
yeah, or
reasonable
I've got
trans,
a
or who's the
friend
other one? There's
Mars who I've
another one.
talked to a couple times. He's a trans
Yeah,
man, and it's like
yeah,
it's like if yeah, if people like Buck Angel were the face of kind of trans rights or trans, when people thought of trans, it's like, well, it would just be reasonable. It's like, okay, and that's what
yeah.
I
I
think most,
mean,
and I really do. Even like you were saying, like even as a trans woman yourself, it's like you weren't like, I mean, you were getting red pilled by the coronavirus. It's like,
and other
there,
things, but yeah,
yeah, yeah, and there are people who truly, and this is a problem across the board with everything, whether it's a political identity, a religious identity, a sexual identity, whatever. It's like people will buy in wholesale to one aspect of their identity and then
yeah,
orient their whole life around it. And those people,
yeah,
you're talking about Jordan Peterson. One of the scariest things, honestly, is he talked about a story of Alexander Solzhenitsyn in the camps in the Gulag in the communist prisons,
yeah.
and they would bring people in who they themselves were like fervent communist member. I'm a diehard communist, but I got thrown into the camp, and they,
Right.
even though they said they were not guilty, they still went along with like the communist revolution or whatnot. And like he
Yeah.
goes into detail. It's like the people who, even when they were thrown in the camp, their ideology failed so much that they were the biggest purveyors of it, and they were still thrown in the camp. But they were like,
Yeah.
well, I still support the project anyway, even though I'm a collateral damage in the process. It's like
Yeah. I
some
mean,
people are just stuck into it until the last moment.
right.
You know?
And the trans activists and the radical left, they hate people like Buck Angel. They hate,
Yeah.
who's the other one? What's the other one?
Well,
There's
Caitlyn
Buck
Jenner even,
Angel.
because
Yeah,
she's a
Caitlyn
Republican.
Jenner, perfect. And I remember when Caitlyn Jenner first came out,
Yeah,
they were
hero.
like praising. She got Woman of the Year. She got,
Yep.
you know. So, and that's what I'm thinking too. And it's like Caitlyn Jenner. And the other thing I don't understand about the with trans women, like 90, I don't know about 90, but I'd say like 75% of them are still attracted to women, like Jenner. So sometimes I think Jenner's particular case has to do with being around the Kardashian women. And I really am
Sure.
starting, like, I
Joe
usually don't
Rogan's
believe,
comedy special come to
yeah,
life.
but maybe they are succubus or succubi, because think about it, like look at what's happened to Kanye West. Like, I mean, this dude has gone
Yeah,
like full
everywhere
fucking, so like what's gonna happen to Travis Barker? You know?
Yeah.
Travis Barker would have been a better neo-Nazi. Like, he's already got the shaved head. Kanye West, that came out, I was like, what the like, listening to that
Yeah.
Alex Jones thing, I was like, whoa, what
Yeah,
the fuck?
talk about like the whole political landscape being lit on fire over the next
Yeah,
couple
what the
years. I
fuck?
don't know what's going
Dude,
to happen.
Kanye West, I think he's, you know, that's sad, but I hope he can, you know, but of course I don't, you know, support any of that, but what he's saying, of course, but
Yeah, well, it's always
know.
it's always fun when people are like, he's mentally ill, he's mentally ill. It's like, well, Or he's a troll contrarian who's clearly saying
I mean, but
crazy shit and he
he's
knows he's saying
ruined. I
crazy
mean,
shit.
I don't think he's gonna be able to come back from
No,
this.
no.
Kanye West, or excuse me, Ye, excuse me.
That's
I
right.
think
Don't dead name him.
we're dead naming Kanye. Ye, I think he he committed career suicide. I don't know if
Yeah.
you can come back from a lot of things,
But saying I love Hitler and he emphasizes he goes Hitler. It's like, yeah, it's pretty
oh my
awesome.
god, dude, fucking Kanye! Like, if you told me 6 months, if you told me like, or like, if you told me this time last year you're gonna detransition, be a man, and fucking Kanye West is gonna go on, you know, Alex Jones and talk about how
I
much he
know.
loves Hitler, I don't know if I would have believed it. But
It's
like crazy things happen.
well,
Like
that's
I
the thing.
finally,
Yeah, it's just
I
like
like until the I don't know. It was all of a sudden I just said to myself, like with the trans thing, I just don't want to be part of this. I can't be part of this. I don't feel this way. I remember going to Pacific Palisades, like Will Rogers State Beach, and like just seeing gay dudes and just being fucking jealous of them, you know? It's just swimming, you know. So I don't know. I never felt confident. I just felt silly doing it. So, but yeah, it's been a weird year. 2022 has been a bizarre year from the beginning of this year to from fucking New Year's Eve, New Year's Day rather of this year
right. So when did you
to
actually detransition? When did you
I
stop
on
taking?
super. I mean, okay, so the hormone thing, that's like because I had these pellets put in me that I can't. So this doctor, he was just like exploiting my money basically, or like he was just like I was a cash cow. He put all these pellets in me. They're gonna take a while to dissolve, but like the way he was doing it is totally like no other endocrinologist would do this. So I detransitioned on Super Bowl Sunday of this year. The Rams were playing. I don't even know who the Rams were playing, but I know it was here in LA.
Cincinnati Bengals, yeah.
Okay, and the
And
Rams
a
won.
relevant detail, but yeah, yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
So I went to my hairdresser's house and I had her cut because I had long hair. I had hair down to past my shoulders, and I had her cut my hair. I sold like all the expensive clothes and just a lot of the shit I had. I went to a couple clothing stores and bought men's clothes, and I'm a man again. And then it took a while I had to go to the LA County Courthouse and I had to pay $407, I believe, to have my name and gender legally changed back. Which was, yeah. So I guess Super Bowl Sunday, which was like I want to say February 13th of 2022.
Sure.
It was a Sunday, I know that. So anyway, yeah, but I mean, it's just been weird, like, because last year, a year ago today, I was sitting, here. I was actively trans. I had,
right.
I would have had what I would have called woman face on. I would have had ladies' clothes on. I would have had makeup on my face. Right. In my bedroom, but like my bedroom was always a man's bedroom. Besides like the clothes in the closet, and I mean I have MAGA hats, the way it's organized, So. Right. But anyway, yeah. So, but like I said, I don't know if I would have believed if someone told me like I was gonna do. It just came to where like it just like I don't want to fucking do this anymore. I don't feel. I wasn't being authentic, and it wasn't like what it was really sold to me as like you're gonna be your true self and live authentic. That's not what it was. It was a constant like, I mean, I kind of looked like a chick, I guess. I looked like. Have you ever seen the movie White Chicks with Sean and Marlon Wayans
from
the early
aughts?
I've
seen clips of it. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, heavy makeup.
I feel like that's what I looked like, So I mean, better than them, but that's what I felt like. I just felt like I was like, I just felt like it was inappropriate. I just at the end of the day, I don't have the soul of a woman. I'm a man. I could never say like, I could never be like, I'm the kind of girl who likes this. I could always be like, weirded out by it. I could never say that, but I can say, I'm the kind of guy who, likes this, but I could never be like, oh, I'm the kind of girl who, so.
Yeah. Telling a lie to yourself. You always know when you're deceiving. Well, I guess you don't always know when you're deceiving. Part of you always knows when you're deceiving yourself.
Like I couldn't like I was saying I started to have gender dysphoria. Like I actually started to have gender dysphoria like
as a trans
when I was living as trans, because I specifically remember going to the bank one day and there was this elderly black African American gentleman, whatever. And he like went out of his way to like open the door for me, and he was like, "Oh, hello, young lady," and I was like, "Oh," like I died inside a little bit. I was like, this guy's.
It's so interesting because you know what? That just made me think of like, because arguably the trans activists, it's not about being trans; it's about being narcissists, right? And so a
Yeah.
narcissist would love that, right? Whereas it would be like, oh, okay, well, I can feel the performativity of it, but like, oh, if someone takes on this identity and they get all this attention and the world bows to them, oh, and then they get elevated to the loudest platform as the trans activist, right?
Yeah, and I just felt stupid like going into a coffee place and telling like, oh, who's this? I can say Brian loud and proud, loud and proud, excuse me, but Brienne, I'd be like Brienne.
Right.
I did.
So since then, I mean, how has life been generally? I mean, did you cut people out of your life? Did people turn on you because of this, or?
Oh yeah. But like, look, I would like I said the few trans friends I had, I have one actually who's still my friend, and this person is a more not conservative trans but realistic trans, like under like we'll say like I'm a biolog, and that's right. This person, she likes Blair White, another good egg trans who I don't like. Always watch Blair White stuff, but I feel like Blair is a good. I even met Blair. When I even have a picture of myself when I was a trans with Blair White at the Beverly Hills. Yeah, at the Beverly Hills. I looked all fucking weird, but yeah.
Sure.
Yes. But anyway, so yeah, but all the other trans they either tried to, one specifically tried to talk me out of it. It was like, oh, this is your internalized transphobia and your dad, and then after that was trying to convince me that I'm a non-binary. And I was like, dude, get the fuck out of here.
The catch-all.
So
I'm non-binary, according to my definition. Of
non-binary is like trans light. It's like you want like the attention, but you don't want to like cut your dick off and all that. And also
you don't
too,
do anything. You don't even want to make any attempt. You just
sometimes they always have like a stupid haircut. They'll get like a stupid haircut and they'll dye their hair like blue or some bullshit. Yeah. But it's really like this collectivist ideology that's I feel like wants to erase individuality, because all non-binary people it's like a uniform. It's like like if these kids people were alive in the set, they would have just been goths or punks,
Well, my theory is I mean, everyone is non-binary because everyone exhibits both masculine and feminine characteristics. That's Carl Jung. That's animus type shit. So it's like, well, hold on. If non-binary doesn't have a definition, obviously, it's just whatever you identify as. Just like, woman identifies as a woman. What are you identifying as? Well, it's whatever you identify as. So I'm non-binary because I have masculine and feminine traits. You're non-binary. Every human being is non-binary. And if everyone is non-binary, no one's really non-binary. It doesn't mean anything. That's kind of the whole point.
I mean, I find non-binary, I find the most upset because, like, trans, I have some compassion for, like, the Buck Angels and Blair Whites of the world. And I feel bad that those people's medical condition has been hijacked by this where like, they don't even want to say it's a medical condition. So, and then, like, the non-binary thing, it's just so strange because, I mean, you'll never meet a non-binary person that isn't like extreme left. I really think it's a personality.
Except for me, because I'm technically non-binary according to me.
All right.
And you can't tell me otherwise, and I have the right to self-identify.
I mean, yeah.
It's funny because I think like, one of the things that could really put a hole in this movement is like, because companies will like measure their diversity metrics. Like we've got, X% of employees are LGBTQ. Sure. It's like, what if there was like just a mass movement just one day where everyone who could just like, hey, go to your employer, go to your HR, send them an email, just be really low key and just say, by the way, I'm non-binary. And now you're on the LGBT metrics. And suddenly now every company's LGBT metrics are up to 30, 40, 50%. It's like, well, then they'd suddenly have to do something about it.
I think that'd be awesome and hilarious. Like for example, I find it very annoying. Like it's only happened to me like twice since I've detransitioned, but if someone asks me what my pronouns are, I'll be like, oh, my pronouns are like they and them.
Yeah.
And then they'll look at you like, oh, for real? And I'm like, no, of course not. I'm fucking with you. No. I'm like, what do you think? Because like the detransition thing, it only took like an hour to pass as a man again,
Yeah.
So I mean, oftentimes when I spoke, people would be like, oh, sir. So, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, I don't even want to, non-binary is just.
Oh, yeah, it's exhausting. That's another line in the sand where it's kind of
and once that's
mean
just
anything.
I just feel like that's a personality type. It's like, I don't know, you don't fit in and you want to be special, right. And I and it's narcissism too.
Well, right, but it's also confusion too, because it's like, well, I don't, I've downloaded TikTok before, and it's like,
That's horrific.
Yeah, like being a 14, it's funny because the whole argument is like, well, the social constructionist argument is like, well, people are socialized to be, women are bare feet and pregnant. Women are supposed to be in the kitchen and doing all that stuff. You're socialized to have this role of woman. It's like, okay, if you believe that,
Okay, yeah.
don't you believe that kids can be socialized into a non-binary identity or a transgender
That's
identity?
a really good point.
It's
That's a
like,
really good point. But I
of
mean, as far as
course.
the as far as that goes, like we as a society have like and women are drawn to certain things, and we have as a society and a culture have sort of like agreed upon that this is this is what women and do. I mean, you can give chimpanzees, like female chimpanzees will gravitate towards
Yeah, I'm
pink
reading Frank
and
Sewell's, who's a
yeah, so
primatologist, gender book. Yeah, males and females certainly have intrinsic differences.
right, and and you're not, and they always love to use like these like little island nations that they
Yeah.
like they just do something weird, like they're isolated from the rest of the world. Like
Yeah.
maybe those people were just trans, or maybe they just do something different. Like
Oh yeah, or
it
like Two
doesn't
Spirit. It's so
that's a
racist.
term from 1990.
Well,
That
and
that that
right, but the idea that's like, and I remember Dan Savage was on Bill Maher
oh, I can't
when it
stand
brought
that
it up,
guy.
and it was like, well, Native American societies had this idea of two spirits, like it's like transgender. It's like, okay, first off, which Native American societies? You just painted every Native American tribe
Yeah,
with the same brush, because I guarantee you, most of those Native American tribes were very patriarchal and didn't have any tolerance for
yeah,
two spirit, which is what a lot of native tribes across the world are. Extremely patriarchal,
I would
extremely
imagine.
brutal, certainly not tolerant by any stretch of the
Yeah,
imagination.
yeah.
And then they're just going to say, oh, well, maybe one tribe somewhere had this notion of a two spirit, which now we're going to say, well, Native Americans in general believe this, as if all Native Americans
Yeah,
thought the
I think
same thing.
Native Americans should be offended by that. Like
I
it's
was on the way down to Texas from Chicago. I drove through Oklahoma, and it's half like Native American
like
reservation.
the four corners kind of
Yeah,
area.
and I was thinking, you know
Sure.
what? I should email one of they've got like the culture centers. I'm like, I'm just gonna do an interview about like gender and be like, you
I think
so
that's a good idea. That'd
and
be
just kind of
interesting.
hear, and maybe they do have a two spirit thing, and that fair enough, and
I
I'll be
don't. I
educated
mean,
on that. But
I think what
somehow
it
I doubt
was.
it would be the case.
I think what it was probably just like they didn't have a word for like trans. It was probably like a rare like one of these rare cases where they
Sure.
miss. But that doesn't. But like just because one culture does that, that doesn't like diminish like all of not just Western societies,
Right.
but
It
every
doesn't.
other society.
It
Like
also.
if you go to Saudi Arabia or
Yeah.
if you go to
Exactly.
Japan or like yeah, like the other one that they love to bring up too. It's like some weird, not weird, but it's like one of those little Polynesian countries. They had something called like the Fafafini or something, which is like that just seems even weirder. Like you can look into that one, but
Like
that's
a
another one they like to bring
trans
up.
two spirit
But
type thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
so
it's also none of that
I
justifies surgical mutilation on children. At the end
no,
of the day,
absolutely not. And
it's
it's
like,
like I think that should be the last option is surgery.
right.
So I don't know if that makes me a bigot. I don't know. But I don't think I'm a
Anything
bigot at
makes
all.
sense.
Like if I met a trans person who was cool, I'd be like, okay, like, and I have before,
Yeah.
and I don't hate anybody.
Yeah, it's
So
almost and it's like, especially it's like when all you hear is, and the trans activist side, I think when you only hear one side of the story, to be trans is to be a political identity, right? Because that's the whole social construction.
yeah,
It's the Marxist. Well, what is the feminist line? It's like the personal is political. Like everything's political. To be trans is to be political. But then it's like, oh, you meet a trans person just like, and this is an obvious intuition, but for some reason it's refreshing. When it happens, it's just like, oh, I don't buy in any of that shit. It's like,
yeah, and
oh,
like a
okay. So
lot.
all of the stereotypes that I've been asked to believe in by the activists are bullshit here. Oh, okay. Well, what else do I not need to listen to them about? It's just like,
Yeah, so I just think like when it comes to like the feminists, a lot of it is like rebellion. Like they want to rebel against their dad
right,
or whatever.
sure,
So
yeah,
anyway, like yeah, and I mean I'm I'm gay or whatever, but I you'll never see me at a pride parade. You'll never. I don't. I'm gonna vote for. I don't think I would ever vote for a Democrat. I don't.
at this point forward,
I don't think so. I mean, except for like the local city council stuff
sure,
where I have like a choice between a Democrat or like an insane progressive that wants to abolish the
abolish the
police.
police, sure.
But no, I'm not gonna. So no, yeah. So I mean, I don't make my just the same thing with the detransition thing. Like I'm trying to move on with my life from it.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
talked to
my. There's a lot more about me that, and yes, this happened to me, but I'm just
it's
there's
not your
many other things.
identity.
It's not my thing. Yes, I'm against a lot of the stuff, but I'm not gonna make it like my crusade.
Right, and it's funny
You
because I
know.
I was talking to someone else who they transitioned. I think it was social transition, and they did a little bit of hormones or something for like a little bit.
Yeah.
But they were saying the same thing of like a lot of the detransitioners now are making it their crusade and their identity. And
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, there's one I can think of on YouTube who's got their own problems. That's a separate issue. But I do see a lot of like, detransitioners who are like on Twitter all the time tweeting about stuff, and it's like there's a risk,
Yeah.
of falling into the exact same trap of I'm now my identity is the opposition of what I dislike.
Yeah. Yeah. And I certainly, I don't want to, I mean, I have stuff to do during the day. I have a
Yeah, right.
job.
Exactly.
I
I know.
have like, I
Yeah,
just
man.
can't,
How many problems we
like,
solved if all these people just had jobs and responsibilities that actually, meant
yeah,
something?
actually, I think me joining society in a meaningful way is the most important thing that ever. And besides getting sober, I guess I think me becoming a taxpayer and like really like getting like having a routine, I think that really helps. So like if I was still living in like one of my mom's properties, like doing drugs all day, I don't know. I know I would have detransitioned eventually. There was other little things that led to it too, but I think it would have taken another year or two.
Sure. Yeah, I've got family who went to prison and then came out like super racist, like Kanye West, except unironically,
Yeah,
and they were doing drugs and all that shit, and it's just like, but coming back to society and getting a job and going to school for a trade and all that, it's like that
yeah,
was the thing that, well, I don't need to utter these bullshit ideas
yeah,
anymore because
yeah,
well, first because it's just like a practicality. You can't, if you want to be in society, you can't say that shit, and rightfully so. But like,
yeah.
because being in society has something to offer. You have you're part of a bigger group. You're part of a community. You're part of something meaningful.
Yes, and
So
you get out
providing
of your
people
head. You're
meaning.
getting out of your head and not just sitting on your phone on Twitter. Like
Yeah.
like I check Twitter, but I honestly,
Yeah, I'm a fucking
one of the
addicted.
things that's wrong in my life is I should really, if like, I should in many ways maybe get off Twitter and Instagram. But
I think in 2023 I was gonna consider deleting Twitter from my phone and then only using it on my
Twitter's
computer.
toxic, and
It's
like
bad.
look, like I understand some of the detrans people, like maybe a couple of them, like some of the maybe like some of the ones that like cut their body parts off. Some of them I kind of
They have a right to be
understand.
on a crusade. Yeah.
Yeah, like a couple of them, but like I mean, where you make it, but yeah, there are a few that I just like seem a little bit unhinged that I don't even understand.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
anyway, I don't really care. Like it's a free country. The internet's open to everybody. Do what you want to do. But yeah, I just want to live my best life, and I just hope that no one has this happen to them. But I mean, it's unfortunately it's happening to someone right now. There's
Yep.
someone here in LA who is transitioning, but like maybe they think it's just cool, like they want a new like the LGBT center has all kinds of parties. They have support. You can make friends. Like I mean, I probably couldn't make friends. You probably wouldn't make friends there. But like I mean, where I've made my even gay men like I've met more at Alcoholics Anonymous than I never went to the LGBT center or any of that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is, I kind of went off on a tangent.
No
But
problem.
for some of these people who are maybe isolated, they have a drug problem or whatever, like, you know,
They need real community, not the community
become,
centered around.
yeah, but like the thing is, like, in the 70s, if you became a punk, or the 70s or 80s, if you became a punk rocker and you did a mohawk and you wore a stupid vest with a dead Kennedy's patch, that's a lot different from changing your body's chemistry and having life altering surgeries involving your
Right.
reproductive
Right.
organs.
That's the issue.
So,
Yeah. That's
yeah, like I mean, so that's just I don't know, so I'm just so thankful, like, that I think I'm gonna be okay, like eventually, like my health, I'll be okay. And yes, but I do think that my life, some of it should serve as, because I really want to prevent people from like this fentanyl shit scare. If fentanyl was around when I'd be dead right now. If God forbid I went back out and used drugs, I don't know, with this fentanyl shit, I
right.
don't know how long I would last. So,
Yeah.
I just don't think that someone who, I mean, and that soft white underbelly guy, he's had interviews with trans people who are doing drugs, and they are
Yeah. Well, he's
getting all these hormones and stuff. So
yeah, and he's
I don't
told
know, but
people
yeah, I'm not
who've
going to become
passed.
I don't want to become a zealot, and I don't want to become, like a, like I just said, a zealot. I can't think of
Yeah.
another word. So quite frankly,
That's
I'm
fair.
basically in the place where, you know, it'll always be a part of my life. It's something bizarre I lived through, and not a lot of people are gonna, you know, experience. But whatever, you know,
Sure. Everyone has their unique
yeah,
story to growth. That's for sure.
absolutely. So